part of our text, it says in Colossians 4:6, first part of that verse, let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt. How you doing? I could use some help in that area. I mean, I read that and I go, oh, I could use some help. Anybody there, out there with me? Kind of. Yeah, so we'll work on that. We'll see what that looks like. And then in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus was telling his disciples really what it looks like to be a follower of his. And he says this in Matthew 5:13, you're the salt of the earth. Kind of using this idea of salt kind of metaphorically. But if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? I've got it there on your notes. First couple fill in the blanks, actually 3 fill in the blanks here. And we're going to look at what is salt, what are the characteristics of salt, and also we'll tie that to what we should be like in this world as followers of Christ. So salt prevents decay. So as Christians, we run to, not from problems. We roll up our sleeves and get involved to try to make this world, this place, a better place by presenting Christ. We stand up for what is right, for what is true, and we do that in love. It adds flavor. That's your next one. Christians are enjoyable to be around. We don't take ourselves very seriously, but we take Christ real seriously. And people just love hanging out with us, I hope. Do they like hanging out with you? Yes. Okay. I agree with you. You're fun to hang out with. Yeah. And so Christians are enjoyable to be around, adds flavor. Maybe you need a little work on that. Some of you were kind of sitting back, kind of not sure about that one. And then the next one creates thirst. Christians create desire in others to know God. So salt prevents decay. Christians run to, not from problems. Adds flavor. Christians are enjoyable to be around. Creates thirst. Christians create a desire in others to know God. Now, this is what you need to know. The chemical properties of salt do not change, but salt can lose its saltiness when it is diluted. When it's diluted. Christians can lose their saltiness when they are diluted by the world. That's why it tells us in Romans 12:2, don't be diluted by the world. Don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. It also tells us in John 17, Jesus is praying to the Father and says that we are in the world, but not of the world. Now, not only do I love God's Word, I absolutely love Jesus. And when you study Him through the Gospel accounts, He's amazing. He's beautiful. He's captivating. He's overwhelming. And what you see in Jesus is this unbelievable balance between being radically different from the world, but at the same time radically identifying with the world. And Jesus was a friend of sinners, but He didn't sin with sinners. And so He calls us, if we're following Him, we'll become more and more like Him, to where we will be radically different from the world, but radically identify with the world. There's this fine balance between the two. So if you're radically different from the world, but can't and don't radically identify with the world, you have a message, but you don't have an audience. If you radically identify with the world, but you're not radically different from the world, you have an audience, but you don't have a message. So God has called us to have this salt kind of influence, prevents decay, adds flavor, creates thirst, radically different from the world, radically identify with the world. That's what He's called us to do and to be.